Hi, in this video I'm going to be making some fondant pieces. I'm going to have a little girl and a horse and a topper, and I'm going to be placing those on a 2-tier buttercream iced cake that is a horse theme, and you'll see me make some buttercream decorations also for the cake. So I just cut out the topper, and you saw me put that on a board to dry, and now I'm cutting out the face and arms, and you're going to see me cut out the shirt for the little girl. It's really only from her torso up, so I don't have to do legs or anything. And then I'll go straight into her hair, and I cut her hair out in several sections, and you'll see me do that. And then I set everything to the side to dry while I'm icing the cake. Now you see me cutting out the shirt, and I am just using the satin ice fondant. I didn't feel a need to use any kind of gum paste or Tylose powder because the figures are sitting directly against the cake for support. And the topper that I cut out earlier, I did actually need a little bit of gum paste into my fondant on that one so it would dry a little bit faster. But I do attach that to the cake with some cake pop sticks that are attached to the back of the topper with white chocolate that's melted and poured onto the back and then dried, of course, for about an hour before I attach it to the cake. But it's hard to tell in this picture here, this shot, but the arms and the face, of course, and neck are actually like a pale, skin tone peach color, and the shirt is actually white. It kind of all looks the same here. Now I'm starting on that hair, and so I really don't follow any kind of pattern when I do hair, especially if it's long hair on a figure, but I just cut out several sections kind of in waves, and then I take that fondant tool and go back and put all my lines in to look like several different strands of hair. Now that I have her face and hair cut out, I haven't attached anything yet, so nothing is really, stuck together or glued together at this point because I'm drawing the face on with those edible ink markers, and I like to be able to move the hair around to get out of my way while I'm drawing the face on. I absolutely hate drawing faces. I don't know why, but I always struggle with it, so just bear with me. They're never perfect, but I do like to use those edible ink markers when it's something small like this. I feel like I have more control. Occasionally, I will use a really, really small, thin paintbrush with food coloring and a little bit of vodka to thin it out, and that works too, but usually I end up going for the markers. Now I am cutting out the horse's face. This is a little bit lighter brown fondant than I used on her hair, and it's really just his head and a little bit of his neck and shoulder and back area. So right now I've got it all attached. In a second you will see me detach his head from his body, just so you can see a better image of the shape of his head. But I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to add the nose and ears, and then I'm also going to do a lighter strip down the front of his face and of course his eyes. And then again I'll set him on that board beside the girl to dry. And you're gonna see me run my hands over his face and the sides of his face and his ears, and I also did it to the figure of the girl a lot. Just anytime I'm using fondant, especially when it's 2D like this, it's gonna be flat. I'm constantly going over the edges to try to round them off and soften them up because I don't want them to have really sharp edges, really sharp surfaces. So I'm always going back with my hands and smoothing those out with the warmth of my hands. And here you're going to see me start on the horse's hair. And so I do it just like I did the little girl's hair. It's just in 2 or 3 bigger sections than I did hers, but it's the same color, same idea, and it's just really super simple. Of course, now I'm attaching my figures to the cake. The horse is already on there, and now you see me attaching the little girl. I'm doing each piece of her separate so I can kind of adjust it as I put it on there, and I'm just using a little bit of water to get it to stick to the buttercream. You don't want to let your buttercream crust too much before you add your fondant pieces, just because it'll be harder for them to stick. So pretty much as soon as I finished icing that cake and stacking it, I went ahead and started adding my figures so it would not crust over too much. Okay, now here's where I messed up. I attached the girl's head and hair, and I did not like the way it looked. I thought her chin looked too big and too masculine, so you saw me just take a few pieces of hair off. I got my small scissors and just trimmed her chin, literally, before I put her hair back on. I just couldn't stand it. So never be afraid to change or alter the decorations on your cake as you're going along. These are just really simple buttercream evergreen trees. And so right now I'm using kind of an olive green color so it stands out a little bit from the background of that green tier. And then in a minute you're gonna see me go back and do some more trees in the same color as the green on the cake. So I have 2 different colored trees. So I'm just piping those on with a round tip, probably like a 6 or 7 number tip. And then I went back with a really narrow spatula and put some extra lines in there to make it look more realistic. And so this is a really easy, super easy way, and I use it all the time. Now I'm going around with just a grass tip and doing that green buttercream grass border that I do on a lot of different cakes, and customers always really enjoy it. And I forgot to mention that on that top tier, those are just brown fondant mountains. I use the same brown that I used on the hair and on the horse of the figures, and just cut out some really simple triangular mountains to go on the side with that grass border. Now that my topper has dried for several hours, I've gone back with just a simple buttercream, the same blue on that top tier, and written the child's name and age. And then I'm going back with some white buttercream and adding some clouds to that top tier. And I'll also add some clouds to my topper once I've added it to the cake. Now I am piping the horse's name across the front of the cake, and I wanted to do it in 2 different colors. So I started with the white that you're seeing me just finish up there, and I went back and smoothed it out with a paper towel with a little bit of pressure, not too much, to spread it out a little bit, because then I wanted to go back over it with that blue again in a little bit smaller tip, and I wanted you still to be able to see some of the white. I really liked the way that it turned out. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.